Hi, welcome to July. Happy New Month. So, a lot of people draw significance for times of the year, maybe a horoscope, maybe weather patterns, or different things. But interestingly, this episode is to talk about the rare gift that the middle of the year gives, and that is reflection, the opportunity to press pause, to look back, and then to look ahead for the rest of the year. And I promise this is not going to be cheesy or burdensome. I would even make a claim that this is going to be an episode that you needed to hear, but you did not know. Maybe you did, but come on and enjoy the podcast. So, I'm David Cromwell, and I believe in the virality of thought and the power of conversations to shape how we live for the better. Together with an amazing community of people, this harbor is where that happens. Welcome to this safe space. Welcome to Cromwell's Harbor. Okay, all right. So, so I'm super excited about this particular episode. And firstly, I have new music. The music is really tight. And yeah, it's really putting a lot of effort to find. I probably scoured the entire internet looking for something that felt right, and I think this one really did. Let me know what you think about this one. And today we're going to talk about. No, I don't want to get into it just yet. So let me start with random facts about July. And obviously, like context, I'm not born in July. I'm born in November. I don't even have any special affiliation with July. None of my family members are born here, so but the episode will explain kind of like the context as to why it's such a special point. Um, so July is named after Julius Caesar. So I think that seems to like be a very obvious thing, but for some reason it doesn't feel that obvious. Like July. July was originally called Quintilius, which is Latin for the fifth month, but it was renamed after Julius Caesar in 44 BCE after his assassination. And he was also born in this month as well. July is the middle of the calendar. July 2nd is the midpoint of the calendar, the exact midpoint. It's also the second month of summer. So in some particular places in northern hemisphere, it is actually the hottest month for some people. But if you live in Lagos, you have been dreading this month because it has been crazily raining. Um, and for some reason, I think like it's almost like the clouds have been angry. I think, but this rain from July has just been more of just a never ending rain. Like it's just pouring. Like it's like the clouds are weeping. The previous month, it was just a lot of thunder. Like quite common times I was awakened by thunder, thinking that it was rapture. Funny, I wish I was joking. I'm actually not joking. Like I wake up and I'm like, Jesus, are you here? Man, the weird things that I wake up to think. But anyways, um, so around July 4th, the Earth is the farthest from the sun. Interesting. Which is ironic since it's going to be summer in the northern hemisphere. So like it's going to be the hottest part of the year in the northern hemisphere. Well, actually, around that July period, well, actually, like the Earth is farthest from the sun. July also was the Apollo 11, the first moon landing. And interestingly, which I'm sure if you work in 9 to 5, you probably know, this is a period where you have to do a lot of shalaing, explaining what you've been doing since the beginning of the year till now. It's the time for appraisal. And to the international audience, shalaye means to do a lot of explanation, to do a lot of defense, apologetics of you justifying your paycheck and justifying what you should be doing next or being promoted. It's the appraisal season. Um, and I would just recommend that you make use of man's best friend, ChatGPT. Obviously, just to just embellish things or just make it a bit more corporate sounding. I did mine, and man, Chinua Achebe is gonna be really proud of the work that I put into that thing. I know. I worked on that stuff. I worked on it I think I worked on it for like almost 2 days. I did it like almost into like 1 a.m. I was just like there was time I actually worked on it from like 12 like 1 to like 1 a.m. And I was just writing. I was just like, "Oh, does this sound right?" And then when I go through my folder, check like, "Oh, this, I did that." When I asked GPT, like, "Yo, how can I frame this in a way that actually looks like?" But actually ended up, it seems like it actually worked, and obviously I worked definitely, right? And the work in itself, there's when you're in the corporate world, there's you actually doing the work and your ability to actually talk about the work that you do, right? But that's not why we're here today. But nonetheless, the month July is a very important month. But obviously, the entire episode is not about any of these things. The actual heart of why I'm doing all of this was actually more, because I actually got an impression. Because imagine, like, I've not been on the pod for a stretch now, and typically, what my original inclination would have been to record an episode where I am most likely giving context as to, the reason for the gap and the likes, just trying to give you kind of like fill you guys, fill you guys in on what has been happening. But interestingly, I did get an impression that this episode is going to be more for the people than even trying to explain for my own self. And predominantly just really to I just got this nudge that this was the right way to start. And it was going to be encouragement to people's hearts to dream again, to hope again for the year, and to just try again, really, because I really do feel like 2025 is a very instrumental year. Obviously, every year feels like an instrumental year, but particularly so, this particular year. And I just really wanted to, just felt this very strong desire to just encourage people to kind of also share some of the wisdom of people's experiences, my experience, and how you could still have a very beautiful, amazing experience, even, with this year. And so I promise you that this episode is gonna be, like I said at the beginning, it's gonna be worth your time. You're gonna have a lot of fun. And it's gonna be very insightful for you. And you also get the opportunity to relate to other people as well. So part of the things that I got to do with this episode was also to try to hear other people's experiences. I got a couple of people to talk about how the year has been and what they look forward to in the next year. And I will give a bit of my own experience and we could see how it flows from there. But part of the reasons why I think this episode is important to happen, to share this way is because I think the so I tagged this episode before I get into why I think it's important. I tagged it the media gas station. Because just think about it, like we're in a movie, right? Typically all those movies where they are maybe journeying in the deserts region. I don't know why Texas comes to mind, but they are, driving in that region. All you by your left and your right is just, fallow land, or maybe just the deserts really altogether. And then, typically on those long stretches of road, there's typically like a filling station where people go and they many times they fuel up their cars and they also get to fill up their own stomachs. Right. They get the chance to eat and kind of take on enough strength and energy for the journey that's coming ahead. I see this episode as something like that, where the weary hearts will get the opportunity to rest, recuperate, and just kind of get the energy that you require to forge ahead in the rest of the year. I was gonna cite the whole example of Benin, Ore. So if you travel in the south, you probably know about the Benin Ore Expressway. Ore is a particular place on that expressway. It's kind of a similar place where we usually stop to refuel in a sense, right? And that's kind of like what I see this episode to be as, just that opportunity to just be able to pause, to rethink, to reflect, and to forge ahead, really. Um, and I think things like this, because at first, things like this become particularly important when you consider the culture that we live in. It's quite countercultural to reflect because of the kind of culture we live in. The culture that we live in is a very fast forward kind of culture. It's always what's the next thing. It's always the next target. It's never always the next quarter, always the next thing we're trying to achieve. Everything, like even all the features that we live in today's modern world. We have endless scroll. Like you don't even really need to press next. It will press next for you by the time you get to the end. Um, Media that autoplay in 5 seconds or automatic playback when you hover on a thumbnail. All around us is just a very fast pace, even in urban life, right? Urban life is very, very fast paced. Societies are, even the way our societies are designed, are changing. If you actually would take some time to really think about it, you realize that our societies are becoming more urban centered. You have like this metropolitan city or this very modern city where people come together, you know the best of people, high-rise buildings, high technology, fast pace. That's like kind of like where the world is going, or that's where the world has been going on, still on. And um I think we've gotten so bad to the point that I saw particular video on Instagram where the guy literally had a video of Minecraft. I don't know if you guys know the game, Minecraft, and the person is like, there's this like really, really fast loop of Minecraft. So the guy is going through multiple bricks and it's almost dizzying in the background while he's playing on the I don't know if I'll say foreground. Shout the forefront. I hope that works. But on the front, right? And he's like on the front, and in his background is like all of these things, and he's trying to keep people's attention so in such a desperate way that he has to have this dizzying thing playing in the background. And I'm just wondering to myself, like, just watching it, I was dizzy. So I'm wondering that, is it possible for someone to look at something this creepy, for lack of a better word, and this is the only way they can actually be stabilized to look at what you're trying to say? Like, I think we've gotten so bad at the act of reflecting, of staying still, of just getting the opportunity to pause. Um, and I really do hope that this episode gives you the opportunity to firstly be grateful, to reflect, to pause. And I also just want to just share some things that I feel would really help. Would I say reshape the rest of the year for you? Um, I'm sure a number of things I'm going to say are not things that are particularly new, but I guess when they come in experiences and they come from a place of someone else living it, the relatability of it, I guess, just or that power of community many times just gives the energy for us to live. It just gives that extra push to be able to do things that you already know because you know someone else around you, is doing that as well. So interestingly, I'm currently on leave, and I'm not necessarily the retreat kind of type. I remember the first time I ever heard someone talk about it, I was just like, man, bro, it just sounds like all these deep things, like, oh, realms in God, retreat, be alone with God, and sometimes like it can almost seem like sometimes it can feel like a challenge, like like it's such a dreadful thing to be alone with God. Like, can you do 100 sit-ups? Can you do 100 days to be alone with God? For some reason I just did not used to dig it. But I heard something really profound. I think it was Apostle Joseph Selman. He talked about it a bit. I never actually finished the entire video, so I'm not even recommending you should like I'm not recommending it from my experience. You could watch it because you want to, but I'm not recommending because I watched it. Context. So but I think I just came across a couple, like a clip, like the first like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I said some things that I thought were insightful. So fast forward 3 years after, I think it was like almost 2 years after. Um, and that's when I think I kind of got my first experience with something of that nature. Because now I think I'll call what I'm currently doing a retreat. And I would recommend that you don't be legalistic about it. I think a retreat is relative to wherever you are at per time in your life. Um, so I think I just got to a point where, like, when you're running on fumes, the angels know, all creation knows, and everybody is asking that you should go and rest, right? And that was kind of like where I was at. Like, if you know me, I give my 100 in whatever I'm doing. So I just changed my job. So I really I put in my blood, sweat, and tears to just make sure that I grew as fast as I needed to, and I just contributed. And in the midst of all of that, were some big changes as well. In my life. And so, like, putting all those things together, it was kind of a shift. I put in a shift at the beginning of this year, especially because I also put that sense of, like, this is 2025. I kind of have a sense of how significant the year is for me, right? So, in a sense, like, I went hard at it. And I just really remember that I just really just starting to appreciate that art of taking a step back, because I think your best thoughts, I think your best thoughts and your best experiences kind of show up when you go into your rest periods, when you get to disconnect from life as a whole, and you just get the chance to just really think. I think the amount of things that have come, and it does not even come from a particularly me having like this Orioke. For those international audience, Orioke means just like mountain. People typically, when they want to pray over here in the side of the world, people go on the mountain, right? So Orioke means the top of the top, really, the head of the top, but top of the mountain. So I don't think I've had that kind of experience. It's just been more of like from rest, and you just be shocked just how much better you are when you are not burning at both ends of the candle, right? The opportunity you just get to just be able to take a step back and just really look on your life, and just really just have like independent thoughts. Because for a large extent, when you're in drive mode, like the instruction is clear. You want to achieve this, you want to achieve that, but I think those periods when you just get to just really pause, and reward yourself. I think that's another thing I was going to say, but after I'm done what I'm trying to say right now, when you just take the opportunity to just really pause, you just get the chance to just really have your best thoughts, and also get the chance to just really look at your life and like, where am I really going, right? What have I been trying to do? You get also kind of spots like cycles that you've been in and you didn't realize because you're just in execute mode. And I think another thing as well is just the opportunity to just give yourself the opportunity to rest and to earn it. Like I mean, like that period where you're not, because when you've been on hyperdrive mode and you've been working, turning in the shift for so long, if you're in today's culture, you are used to work resting, right? So you're already tired, but you most likely indulge in stimulating things like Netflix, Instagram, etc. to kind of recuperate, and they kind of give you like makeshift rests. But like those things aren't really rest; they just stimulate you, but they don't actually rest. Funny thing, guys, ChatGPT is an amazing thing. I asked ChatGPT like, "What is rest?" and it had a very interesting response. And amongst many other things that he said, it was like rest is not inactivity. Rest is restoring of capacity. I think that I found that so profound, right? In the sense that it's deeper than not doing anything. It's about getting back to the original level that you were at before you drained, right? That's really what sleep is for. It's not about inactivity, it's about restoring yourself back to the sharpness that you were at your best. And the same thing kind of happens emotionally, all different areas of life where we actually need to rest. And I think that's the thing that we miss out on with the kind of quasi rests that we experience through the stimulations that we put ourselves through, games, media, movies, etc. You actually do need that period where you just allow your mind go fallow, and you just, just let go, and not just look at what you look at every time, and just give yourself a chance to just rest. So I guess from my experience, I'm seeing that's a culture that I have to build all of life follows it. We have agriculture, we have even building muscle. You work, but then you must have your rest days because that's when your muscles actually build. Agriculture, land must lie fallow so it can replenish its energy. Same thing also happens. I think even the principle of rest during the week to low key, like if you're active in church, sometimes Sunday is even the day you work the most, right? Saturday is the day you prepare for the work you're going to work the next day. Or you catch up on all the things that work did not permit you to do during the week, right? So I would just say just to have the boldness to rest, have the boldness to rest and to plan it out, take that time out. So I originally had planned I was going to put like everything that was on my heart in one episode, but I realized that I don't want to create like an overload, and I don't mind breaking it into two different episodes. So literally in the middle of recording this, I've decided to go for a media gas station part one and part two. So stay tuned for the rest. But I will share something that I think kind of makes this particular episode complete, and that is really um kind of like the experience. So right now I'm currently done with my leave, and man, it was quite beautiful. I think I would really consider myself someone who is extremely mentally active. Uh, from a very young age. My grandma used to tell me about when I was younger that I had this whole habit that whenever I eat, so at that time I used to say like I want Aba. So I used to call Eba Aba. So in case for the international audience, um Eba in Nigeria refers to cassava, is it cassava flakes we call it, but put in hot water to the point that it now becomes a bit like a swallow. I hope that makes sense. But so it's actually called Eba, but I call it Aba when I was younger. And I would literally apparently I used to eat Aba every 2 to 3 business days. Just like how I like beans now. But but like I'll take one spoon and then I'll run around the entire house and take another one spoon. And funny thing is how people grow, how much you kind of like grow with certain things. Like I don't run around now, but it's still a culture that I still do. Even when I eat, like I would probably take a spoon and my mind would just be active and just do something. It's just funny how that has transferred. But I'm a very, very mentally active person. And I'm also someone that puts my heart into everything that I do. And I hope that shows through this podcast. And it was just particularly interesting to this was the first time that I ever really put in a lot of effort to make sure that I had a reset. Like I said in the previous section, or earlier in the podcast, that like man, I was on fumes, right? A lot of big changes, a lot of things. I think it's probably even the weight of all the years and all the thinking and all the responsibilities just weighing on me. And all of a sudden I started to feel this whole sense of I don't know if I call it like anger. Like there was just I was just a bit short tempered, a bit easier, a bit frustrated. Things I used to enjoy were a bit looking like they were more of a drag. And I think that was kind of like a sign that like guy you needed to really find out, like check under the hood, like I will call it, like what's really happening on there. Um, and I did, and honestly, like I just did not realize just how healing the process of just not having like a structure um is or could be. I don't want to make this episode go too much like deep into like the whole rest thing because I think it's still a journey that I'm growing in. But I guess I just want to just share like um a little bit of my heart or the things that I kind of picked on the journey. And that is that like in your own process and in your own thing, take that time out. I think it's relative for everyone, not like, and I think one thing you also don't want to do for yourself is to put the demands of someone else's rest or someone else's retreat on your own self. And I would even recommend don't even use the word retreat. I think the word retreat is even a bit too just I don't know, call it a timeout. I don't know what you would call it, but um just that step back to really just look at your life and be grateful. Be grateful. Maybe if you're someone that really goes a very high structured schedule or whatever it might be, take that time out to just not have one. Couple of days, spend money on yourself. If you work really, really hard, maybe you're someone that just happens to be you spend a lot on other people and you struggle with spending on yourself. Like, actually, I set out a budget. And what I would even say is that it's different from when you slept and maybe you saw something and then maybe by impulse you bought and then had to compensate yourself. Like, there's just a different form of self love when you do it intentionally, knowing that, like, I deserve to be spent on, right? At the end of it, though, everything that I'm trying to do here and we're trying to achieve here with this podcast is really changing the culture for the better to shape how people live for the better. And I think this art, originally, I promise you there were more things that I wanted to say, and you'll see it in the next episode. I got people to share their experiences as well, but um, I think this episode is a success if you get the opportunity to glean from my own experience. Like I said earlier in the pod, I don't think I'm saying anything that's particularly new. A lot of us would have probably heard about stuff like this, but let my experience, give you the energy and the push that you require to use something that you already know. Um, it genuinely felt like it's so funny. I never knew how riding a bike could just be that exciting. I looked like I was driving the bike around, and the lady that was in the place that I was, and the lady was telling me that I can see that you're very, very happy, and I'm like, yes, I am. Oh man. Um, it's just interesting just how God's ways are, just how productive sometimes taking a step back is. Sometimes it looks like it makes more sense to charge forward, and that's the way you really achieve more, right? When you look like you're pressed for time, sometimes it looks like can be very counterproductive to be resting, but you don't realize that, like ChatGPT, man's best friend, told me, um, rest many times is like restoring capacity. It's not just inactivity, and many times that's the very reason why you can actually go again. And please be grateful. Appreciate yourself. Appreciate things that you're doing, and even if you feel like you don't even deserve a rest, like you faffed all throughout the year, I feel like I'm about to explain Faf again to the international audience. Faf is just I don't even know how do we describe Faf. It's like just wasted. You feel like you've been a couch potato all throughout the year, in a sense, right? I don't know if couch potato even helped, but I hope it did. Even at that, many times, even the change that you require for your life, um, comes from the place of rest. Like where you get to really spot your patterns, where you get to really spot, oh, these are things that I've been doing that have not been effective. Um, but use the gift of July to take a step back and to just recharge. Yeah, so the heart of this podcast really is kind of like creating or like shining a light on MVP conversations that are a bit understated. And I believe that we've kind of achieved that in the course of this episode. So interesting thing that you might not know about this episode is that this episode has been in the works for close to a month wide of recordings. Like I've not even been in one place to record like the entire thing. And a lot of things literally like have just been trying to come in the way of it actually being rolled out. And even now, like now that I'm a bit better, I've been a little bit under the weather for a while. And now that I'm a bit better, like my perfectionist, you know how people say artwork is never done. There's that part of me that wants to like tweak this, tweak that, tweak this, but I'm just gonna just roll it out, embody what progression over perfection looks like. And I really hope that it connects with you in a deep way. Um, so I hope you feel inspired, or rather, let me ask the question. Do you feel inspired? Do you feel related to? Do you feel seen? Did this leave you better? And if so, put it into practice. Ask your questions if they exist, and share with me your journey. Because remember that we're going on this journey together, so it's not just a one person kind of thing talking into a microphone. So I would share the remaining or some of the parts of the episode that were meant to be in this one, in the next in the next episode. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your ears, really. And like I said earlier, I hope you feel inspired, related to seeing and better. And also, don't forget that this is a journey that we're all going on. Like I said earlier, that's the. So if you feel like there's someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. So maybe someone that has really been cracking, and a person's like me, and you knew this person, you know this person currently running on fumes. Just send it and be quiet. So let's do this together, and let's shape how people live for the better together. So thank you so much for your ears once more. Have a great time until I see you next at the harbor. Bye.